As we were just discussing, two differing decisions from the nation's highest court on COVID vaccine mandates by the Biden administration. How would these decisions impact the states that took the Biden administration to court over the mandates, and what other lawsuits, which are pending, how will they be affected? Joining me now with answers to this is Indiana Attorney General Todd Rokita. He helped lead the way on this, fighting against the Biden mandates. Attorney General Rokita, welcome back to the program.
Hey, great to be back with you.
Let me get your response, your thoughts on today's decisions.
Well, we had a good day today. The court agreed. Most of the court agreed with several like-minded states who thought, you know what, this OSHA mandate that the Biden administration, Mr. Biden himself, has demanded OSHA do is way overbroad. Even Congress, when they enacted OSHA, only meant it to be for the workplace, not the entirety of our public health. And the court correctly saw that argument. And that's why they said, look, these states are likely, and the other entities that filed suit are likely going to win on the merits when it comes back to the trial court. So we're going to put a stay on this OSHA mandate until it's all over, and who knows if the federal government will even continue on with their lawsuit at this point. But the good thing now is that if you're if you work at a private employer, 100 or more, or even up in some cases public employers that are 100 or more, that your employer cannot say or try to make the case that the federal government or the Biden administration is making them do that, because there is a national stay of that mandate currently in place.
Will there be an expedited trial of this? Will the courts take this up in a rapid manner so that we can get a final decision?
You know, Tony, I think that's a fair question. I'm more of the opinion that it's over, that this stay will cause the issue to go away, at least for the foreseeable future. But technically the case still goes on the merits, and the federal government may continue to try to fight this. But and if they do, we'll ultimately be back in front of the same judges, or unless, of course, one passes away or resigns or something like that. But we'll be back in front of the same court. And so It was a pretty resounding decision today from the court that this isn't going to work.
So you're saying if you have common sense, you would just drop it here and you wouldn't keep going with it. Yeah. But consider what we're talking about.
and you know, Tony, in the same token, consider the private employers who secretly or maybe overtly wanted to do this to their employees anyway. I mean, all that happened today was that the government can't mandate it, and therefore employers who are likely to want to do this to their employees anyway can't use the federal government as the fig leaf or the excuse to do it. But certainly there's this issue of what a private employer can do or not that still is going to resound through state houses around the country.
So in other words, the issue of vaccine mandates is far from over. Let me ask you this question, General. When you look at some of these other cases that the court did not take up today, what implications may these decisions have on those cases? For instance, you've got the one I think you've been involved in with the
federal contractors, the Head Start. I think it's gonna bode well for those cases. That's yet to be seen. We have to argue those cases in front of the same court. So slightly different kind of a fact pattern, in the sense that the federal contractor case was an executive order made by President Biden to do this to employees that had federal contracts with the federal government. But if they smack down the OSHA argument because OSHA was never meant by Congress to be that broad, it's also kind of hard to argue then that the federal government, through the executive branch, the presidency itself, can say to the employee of a federal contractor, you have to do this, that, and the other thing that has nothing to do with the federal contract.
Right.
So,
yeah, I would think the contractors, that one is on very thin ice. The Head Start program, I would think maybe similar to what we saw with the Medicare, Medicaid facilities, funded facilities with the healthcare workers. Is there similarities there?
Yeah, I do see the similarities in the sense that Head Start is federally funded. These hospitals are also federally funded through Medicare, Medicaid. And so there's a nexus to the federal government there that's stronger than an OSHA, the OSHA case, which is a little bit of apples and oranges. So there is that. And there's this idea of, like in the CMS case, which we did lose the stay today, that is, it's in effect, the HHS secretary in the CMS case has, by definition, broader public health concerns. You can argue that that's not the role of the federal government. It'd be a great argument, but the fact of the matter is Congress made that law, made the HHS secretary to be involved with broader public health decisions. Now, does Head Start, in terms of the safety of teachers and children, have that same kind of broad mandate as well? We'll find out, hopefully.
I think it helps you with your argumentation of zeroing in on some of the arguments that carried the day. One final question for you, going back to the Medicare, Medicaid funded facilities. This doesn't resolve the problem for the states, because the states are having a shortage crisis of healthcare workers who are being forced either to resign their positions or being fired for not taking the jab. So this doesn't solve the problem many states are facing right now.
You know, I agree with that. Of course, the establishment, the hospital establishment, some of the political establishment likes to say, no, we only lost X number compared to the total number of employees we have over the jab. But when you're on the margins like this, and if the beds are really that tight and the hospitals are that full, which, you know, we'd have to also look at how that is different from any other time. But if they're really that tight, you need every hand on deck. I mean, there was big news in Indiana made about just six National Guardsmen helping out in one hospital, and everyone bragging about how that made such a difference. Well, if 6 is a big number in that kind of situation, then again, we need everyone we can possibly get, and it doesn't help when you're mandating this against people who work in an environment where they should know better how to take care of themselves, and they do.
Yeah. General Rokita, thanks so much for joining us, and congratulations for helping lead the fight against these mandates.
Congratulations to the Republic and the people.